All right. So today, today I'll be speaking about the power of focus and consistency. And I'm not going to be speaking about it in the same way that most typical like self-help people do. Um, because I think like oftentimes the emphasis on these things, um, they're often overemphasized, right? Um, and often if you overuse these, they will lead to burnout. So when I say focus and consistency, the first thing you want to be in is like, at least for me, I think you want to know how to like be in tune with what you want. And first of all, like nothing works if you don't do something called like, if you don't address your subconscious mind, right? Some people call it like shadow work or whatever, but if you don't address your subconscious mind and your subconscious beliefs, then all the focus, all the hard work, all of that will, it may yield some result, but it won't necessarily, you won't necessarily go as fast or maybe as even far as what you could be doing. Or worse, you might achieve some, like you might achieve things, but you might not achieve what you want to achieve, if that makes sense. But yeah, focus and consistency. Focus and consistency are mainly just about maintaining the maintaining, well, let's say maintaining frequency. And what I mean by that is that focus and consistency are one small, at least when you're doing a physical action, right? You want to, when you're employing focus and consistency in like, let's say seeing or um, trying to think and really embody what you're trying to achieve, you'll end up, right? Like mentally embodying what you're trying to achieve. That will that will progress you significantly, right? But in terms of like physical action, right? Focus and consistency mainly are just working or quote unquote, as the Bible would put it, living by faith, right? Working with the living from the end is the best way I can put it. Living from the end. And I didn't just come up with that on the spot, right? That's a concept that is, you know, that is a concept that is that's an old concept, right? In the spirituality space. But basically, like if you live from the end, living from the end requires you not only to living from the end requires you to act on three different levels, right? Most people, when they're pushed hustle culture, they're told to act on one specific level. And this is where focus and consistency, the definition of focus and consistency and discipline gets a little mixed up because everyone's definition of it or what they think of when they think of focus and consistency may not be is usually limited to the physical and not the emotional and mental. So when we're talking about or when we were talking about like hustle culture or like most things, as far as like the physical, focus, consistency, and discipline will help you um on the physical. But if you have like a bunch of self-contradictory beliefs against your goal, right? Um, or you have some unaddressed, like again, like unaddressed self-beliefs, that's where physical action Your focus and consistency and discipline in the physical will yield almost no result in a lot of cases, at least. Maybe not in all cases, but in a lot of cases. And I'm sure we've all experienced something like this where we have put physical effort, like we have put in dedicated time, energy to something, um, that yielded no fruit physically. And you're confused as to why it's yielding no fruit, but it's yielding no fruit because you have subconscious beliefs or, in a lot of cases, it's because you have subconscious beliefs that it will either take time or, well, some things will take time, but like it'll either take time or that you have subconscious beliefs that you might not be able to get it, right? Like you are not the type of person to have that thing, right? Or you may have like a quick example of this is like money, right? So a lot of people have negative beliefs around money, right? Whereas they don't see themselves as the type of person who will become a millionaire. They just don't. Or let's keep it simple. A lot of us as Gen Z don't see ourselves, owning a home. Like a lot of folks genuinely don't feel like they're gonna own a home. Um, and if you listen to the news and all the physical, I'm not talking about like all the things going on in the news and all that stuff, but like a lot of people feel like genuinely they won't be able to find affordable living and all that stuff, right? Um, or reach a wealth where they can just like live, own a home comfortably. And the problem is that they don't see them, first of all, they don't see themselves as someone who could achieve that goal. And then secondly, or with the case of like, let's say being a millionaire, a lot of people not only don't see themselves as being someone who can be a millionaire, but a lot of people think of themselves, they think negatively of that, right? Like if I reach that goal, I will be they sometimes like they will associate money with like money is the root of all evil, saying things like that, right? They will associate money with being immoral. And so subconsciously, since most of us don't want to be immoral, they will either like they will subconsciously prevent themselves from obtaining that money, or they'll believe that they have to compromise their values and morals to obtain a ridiculous amount of money. But either way, there is some sort of belief that is obstructing them from getting to their goal, even if they work towards it, right? And also emotions as well, right? Like the belief is basically thoughts and emotions that contradict what we are trying to achieve. And so once you realize that, you realize that you have to maintain discipline, but in a really unique way. You have to apply focus and consistency, which ultimately is discipline, in a really unique way. Or not maybe in a really unique way, but not really unique. Most people, well, very high achievers, like if you study them, do this. But you have to you have to apply focus and consistency on the mental, the emotional, and the physical as well. And it's very difficult. It's harder than you imagine because you have to, this goes back to the earlier video about conviction, is that you have to develop conviction. A conviction is aligning your emotion with thought or aligning your thoughts and emotion to a specific goal. So you're channeling your emotion, you're channeling you're channeling specific emotions towards thoughts about a specific goal or thing you want to embody, right? And then you have to act accordingly to that. And that's it's harder than most people think because we have unconscious beliefs that have been programmed to us, right, based on our backgrounds and based on the background or culture we lived in or family we grew up in and life experiences we had that have prevented us from or that prevent us from achieving what we desire to achieve, right? Even if it's unknowingly. And so you have to apply focus and let's define discipline as focus and consistency applied over a period of time. You have to apply discipline on all three levels to achieve your goals in the most efficient manner. And when we think we do and the only way to do that one is not through overexerting yourself in the physical, right? Or not necessarily even through focusing on outputs in the physical. That may be a part of your process, but the key thing here is like you're paying attention constantly to your emotional, like you have to be really, really in tune with yourself. And this is why practices like meditation are so critical and important because if you're not in tune with yourself, then even when you act physically, your mind, you won't be able to command your mind and emotion to develop the conviction necessary for that thing to materialize into reality. So when I say you must literally, um, you have to literally just develop a state. You have to really focus. And then once you do that, then you'll be able to achieve whatever you want. Um, Rather than just killing yourself to achieve the most amount of productivity. Not only will you, um, because overexerting, not only will you, sometimes it'll even become more counterproductive to what you're trying to achieve. Um, when you just apply consistency and discipline on the physical, because you haven't necessarily checked in on what mentally or emotionally is holding you back from achieving what you need to achieve. Oh, so that's it. Um, I decided to eat and while it was raining, so that's why you see me just chomping on the orange. But yeah, hope this helps. God bless.